All right, my name is Jill Dreves, and I grew up in the mountains of northern Colorado. And when I was a little girl, we had 20 acres of wild land, and then it was surrounded by all of our neighbors' acreage. So it was a pretty wild, exploratory time. And so I went to a school. It was kindergarten through 8th grade. There were 32 kids in the whole school, and I was the only one in my grade, 3rd through 8th grade. And my sister and I, she's 3 years older than I, we would come home after school, and we would brush our horses and get them saddled up and go for a ride, almost every day. And we would ride in the woods behind us, up on this road we called the access road, which I don't know what it was accessing, but it worked for us. And we rode our horses, and there was this trailer house in the backwoods who we became quite curious about this trailer house. And there was a lady that lived there. And so one day we met her. Her name was Judy Bodenham, and she befriended my sister and I, and we went into her trailer house one day, and inside we had microscopes and insect collections and the smell of naphthalene. and she was a doctorate entomologist. So she made us into little entomologists. And so we then started bringing our butterfly nets on our horseback rides. And we would discover all of the insects of our backyard. So I pretty much know every single insect at this elevation. And my sister became a PhD entomologist. She works with farmers up in the Pacific Northwest with to help with biological pest control. And so she works and does that very important work of keeping pesticides off our food. But I went into education, so I became a school teacher. I became a public school teacher, and I taught up in Vail. It was my first teaching job. And Vail is just a gorgeous mountain, and I found then in the summer I became a naturalist at the Vail Nature Center. And I found that my best teaching and the most learning was really happening outside, and the discovery of insects was my love. So I became the Judy Bodenham for many children up in Vail, and then landed a job teaching 5th grade at Mapleton Elementary School in Boulder Valley School District, and then transferred to Netherland. So when I was at Netherland Elementary School, which is on 40 acres, surrounded by thousands of private acres, up here at 8,250 elevation, I found myself never being able to bring my kids out of my classroom. And I became very passionate about and really reflective of what most impacting learning experiences in my life were. And it was really those times when we were watching the elk migrate in the meadow across from Stove Prairie School, where I was journaling. We were creating our own little maps and treasure hunts at the K-8 32 kid school that I went to, and Judy Bodenham, and all the discovery of insects in the backwoods of my childhood home. So I jumped off a cliff when it was in my 9th year of public school teaching. I jumped off this cliff, and I actually went to my principal, and I told her my dream. And my dream was to try to picture learning as something that is 24/7 in all our lives, and that we don't box people into 25 10-year-olds need to understand their letters or their spelling words, but really it's a bigger picture. And so that's where I founded Wild Bear. So Wild Bear Mountain Ecology Center came from my own heart and soul, of my own belief that we must connect with our backyard, and we must understand the intricate details of the planet and actually fall in love with it and try really hard to end this fear of insects or of spiders or of nature in general, so that maybe we would work a little harder to protect it. So we can, maybe see a future for our children. And that's where Wild Bear Mountain Ecology Center came from. That's my story. I'll never forget when I was a little girl, riding my horse with my butterfly net out in the forest. When we would, we found it very exciting to kick over the horse manure and the cow patties, because inside of those we would discover these phenomenal beetles, and they were carrion beetles. And the carrion beetles that were in those horse patties were, they were orange and black striped with these big club antennae. And those amazing details that my sister and I loved the carrion beetles. And we would go off into the woods and we would find the antlion pits. So along on a south-facing slope of sandy area, you would find these little pits where we would see these little antlion nymphs under there, and the ants would, crawl along, and they would unknowingly fall in, and the antlions would suck the blood out of these insects, and you could watch it all happening. Like we used to, do experiments where we would throw the ants in there, see how many ants could they eat in an hour, So we were pretty self-entertaining with the insect world. And also, one of the coolest things too was at night when we would have the light on up there at Upper's Canyon, and we'd leave the light on all night because the nocturnal insects would come out, and we would stand there and watch these adult antlions. So the antlion nymph is this amazing predator that eats these ants in the pit. But it becomes this amazing, graceful, dragonfly-like insect that actually flits around very gracefully with its club antennae and is a nocturnal insect. And we used to always be so excited when we'd see one of those. And then there were the velvet ants that are phenomenal. The velvet ants are these fuzzy, bright orange ants that were always mysterious and we would get so excited when we'd see one because it was so unusual. So when I was an adult and I had my first child, I went to this conference in the Pacific. It was down in the near Texas, just outside of El Paso, Texas, in the desert. It was the Rico Rio area. We stayed at the Rico Rio Resort. But anyway, all these entomologists convened to this conference, and they, if you've ever hung out with entomologists, you would understand. And so at night, everybody would pile in, way more seatbelts, or way more people than seatbelts, and packed in these cars, and we would drive into the desert in the middle of the night, and all these entomologists were heading off to the desert, and some were hanging these big sheets for nocturnal, with black lights to collect nocturnal insects, and I was in a car where we were driving along, and this car would stop, slam the brake on, the doors would fly open, all these entomologists would fly out, and here were the desert millipedes, or the huge tarantulas walking across the road, and there's nothing more exciting, right, than than finding those guys. But I'll remember that we were flying on this dirt road, and off in the distance we could see this glow. And so, apparently, and I was stuffed into the back seat with, I didn't, perfect stranger. We were just stuffed in it. And this driver apparently was looking at this glow off in the distance and heading off there, but didn't really notice that we were about to drive off this massive cliff. realize it at the last minute and threw the brakes on. And then, so anyway, he ended up driving us to this glow, and it was this entomologist with this white sheet, black light, and it was just phenomenal. All these massive beetles walking into the light, and these huge moths on the sheet, and of course, entomologists, they want to collect everything, and but I was really there just to watch, and that was actually a very inspirational conference that I went to just tie all that into. Just the amazing beauty, the amazing, outstanding beauty of insects. It doesn't matter how big or small they are. If you take a close look, it's amazing. And actually, I'm excited because right now I've been running Wild Bear for 22. This is my 22nd summer camp, and for the first time in maybe 10 years, I get to teach a class. Because we had too long a waiting list on the fly fishing class. So I decided to get out from behind my desk and take these kids out to explore entomology. So I had my first class on Tuesday. I have 3 more, and that's what I was doing in my office. I was planning my entomology class. Get them excited. I would love to set up a black light, so that maybe we could find some nocturnal insects, but they would be, millimeters. Well, it wouldn't be these. But anyway, that's my story.